Here we are again for the Vital Energy series, and this is number 4. So it's been 8 weeks that we've been diving into this. So 4 sessions over the last 8 weeks. Today we're going to talk about something that is, I think, something everybody talks about at some point in their life, and that is sleep. So up to this point, we've covered everything from cellular vitality down to energy, down to brain function, brain fog, brain communication, as well as weight maintenance, stuck weight loss, or maintaining water weight, or feeling like a fish out of water. And so we've been really building these bigger pieces that really, I would say, encapsulate all of the dysfunction, dis-ease, disharmony that we experience as humans. And so my goal here, hello everybody, most of you know me, those of you that may not, I am Dr. Kayla Abeid. My goal here, which I'll share in just a minute, is to radically shift your understanding of what your symptoms are telling you, hence Decoding Your Symptoms, a Vital Energy series. And so sleep, even though we've had a lot of great ones, I think sleep is one of the most important ones because it's the one that we know a lot about, but we're least likely to follow the symptoms of what our body's telling us when it comes to sleep. So let's dive in and get started. If at any point in time you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I do save about 10 minutes at the very end, 10 minutes minimum for us to spend on questions, connecting, having some type of just open forum so that you get your questions answered. You could share some thoughts, reflections. So I always prioritize that. If at any time you do have a question that may be related to something we're talking about, throw it right in the chat and I'll address it as I see it come in potentially, depending on how quickly we are moving through. So our goal here is pretty much the same as what we've been rolling with. A lot of you that are coming back for more. We're going to introduce a little bit what I just shared about sleep and how that impacts our body, but we're going to shift that into the biological laws of nature, which we've talked about a lot, giving us a really big health paradigm shift into how our bodies show up in the world and how they're adapting for us, and how this is not about making symptoms go away or how we should treat them, but shifting our beliefs and perspectives about understanding why they're there and what their purpose is in the first place. And then we'll talk about healing with your own light. Biophotons is all the new, but it's not new in this sense. It's something we've been talking about for 20 years, over 20 years. And it's something that we know already exists inside of us, and we're going to optimize that. We'll share personal stories of vitality, and then I'll give you an easy step-by-step guide how to enhance your sleep and vitality so that you can feel refreshed, rejuvenated, and continue on your healing journey. But first and foremost, I almost forgot, I almost always forget, anything that we learn here today is for educational purposes only. So each of us have this beautiful gift, freedom, and sovereignty to choose what we do with our health and the choices that we make, and those are always respected with whatever we choose to do with our sovereign bodies. So I 100% encourage you to do your own research, make your own choices, consult with those that you genuinely trust personally, one-on-one with your health. I am not a medical doctor, I am a chiropractor, but I'm not anybody's chiropractor on here. So there is nothing on here that I'm telling you that is anything more than just pure educational information for you to shift your perspective and choose what's best for you. So what allows me to be in this space and what jives me up to experience or to share this experience and this complete health shifting paradigm? Well, I spent the past 7, 8 years in the world of prenatal, pediatric, animal, and women's health, predominantly as a chiropractor, working in the world of seeing lots of people with symptoms and tying them down to this understanding that functional medicine, Western medicine, Eastern medicine, um, naturopathy, anything that you could put in the world of medicine or health, there was an underlying focus that always stayed the same. And it was that a symptom always communicated something. And of course, we have this beautiful gift of lots of choices in life. And depending on which medicine I saw people choose, we saw there was some type of response or reaction. But the underlying physiology always stayed the same. There was a pattern of what happened and or potentially what happened before those symptoms came on. And through a very long story, this led me to my second child experiencing something that put this so abruptly in my face, I couldn't turn my eye from it. And so that got me over 5 years ago now down the road of German New Medicine, Germanic healing knowledge, Germanische Heilkunde, however you want to call it, basically is a set of biological laws that all of us live by. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. And so I've spent the last 5 years in deep study, working with individuals through this reflection. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. I also have a master's in nutrition and human performance, which will tie a little bit of that in, and a bachelor's in exercise physiology, which, fun fact, I use that more often than not. I always joke around. It ends up coming up some type of conversation about something relating to our human physiology. And sleep is something that I spent a lot of time in that world on when I was way, way, way back in the day looking at that from that lens and perspective. So that makes it even more exciting to share about recovery, active recovery, passive recovery, and how our body's able to regenerate. So all in all, my main focus here is to guide you to self-healing through your own biological adaptation, through light, frequency, sound, energetic codes, because that's exactly who you are. So nothing here today I'm going to tell you is going to change anything that your body's not already doing itself. It's just going to optimize it. And that's the first shift that I want to share with you, is that your body was created and has the potential to optimize, regenerate, heal, and reform in ways that we actually have never been educated on. And so we're going to start with the 5 biological laws of nature, who were discovered by Dr. Reid Hammer, a German internal medicine doctor who was seeing individuals, lots of them, thousands of cases of individuals with cancer. And he noticed by means of his own healing, when his son was tragically killed, that he experienced as a very healthy middle-aged man, that he developed prostate cancer. And so he was completely shocked. He had no idea where this came from because he was inherently healthy. He had taken care of himself. He ate good food. He didn't put toxins into his body. And so it started making him look at things differently. And so he started to look at all of his cases, and he realized that depending on which type of cancer somebody had, they all experienced a very similar shock to their body, or conflict or trauma, if you will, in their lives prior to the onset of these symptoms. And so we're going to talk about his discovery, and yes, discovering the laws of nature. They are laws. They are not theories. They're not hypotheses. They are laws of nature. Therefore, they apply to any human, animal, or plant, that we are actively responding through our psyche, our brain, and our organs with a necessary, meaningful biological adaptation process for our survival. And so when we look at all of the medicines we talked about, it doesn't matter what set of definitions you put to these laws, the laws are still the same. So you could box in these definitions of these laws into Western medicine, Eastern medicine, naturopathy, holistic medicine, however you want to call it. But when we look at how the body reacts, responds, and resolves conflict, it's all predetermined in an organized matter. And the beauty of that is you don't have to learn it because your body's been doing it, right? I'm in my 30s. My body's been doing it all along since I was conceived. And in my mother's womb, my body was already responding and experiencing meaningful biological adaptations so my body can survive and heal and return to proper function and balance. And so has yours. We just haven't been made aware or conscious of it yet. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to bring consciousness to what subconsciously is actively already going on inside of you. And these subtle shifts make huge differences because now your body is going to be able to be put at ease and understanding of what's actually going on. And the biggest thing that I want to take from this lesson today is that I want to take the fear that we have that our bodies are broken, they're not worthy, they're not able to, they need something from the outside in, and shift it into fear is no longer an object that we can grab onto when it comes to our bodies, because we understand meaningful biological adaptations, and therefore we can make great choices about what type of medicine we're going to choose because we're making a sovereign decision out of understanding our physiological points of our body and their meaningful adaptations, instead of making a reactive response to something, fearing that we're not enough, it's not going to heal, it's not possible, and that we are broken and not fixable unless we have something from the outside in. And so with that, that gives me the perfect opportunity to say, I get this question a lot, is that I'm not anti any type of medicine. Because when you come from a place of discernment and understanding and knowing that there's only so many things that can happen when you run a specific program that a response system has to happen. The soldiers have to come in and repair the tissues. There has to be a way that our body can communicate back and forth. And when we understand that's what's going on when we experience symptoms, then we have a deeper trust and understanding, and we can continue to make the best choices and best practices to help us continue on that healing journey. And so the biggest thing, again, is to just remove fear from the understanding of what's going on in our body. And I relate that to gravity. None of us wake up in fear that gravity is going to just unleash itself and we're all going to go flying to the ceiling and hit our heads, right? We trust that inherently the current physical matter that we're experiencing is going to stay the same. And we should have that deep inherent trust for our physical, emotional, autonomous, living, creative selves because our body has all of that inside of us. Just like we don't have to remember how to breathe, we don't remember how to digest. The same thing happens in terms of healing. Our body is always pushing us towards survival and therefore towards healing. So let's go over these in a very quick manner and make them very easy. I love analogies. If you know me this long, you know I love a good analogy. I try to make it easily relatable and obtainable and digestible. So there are 5 laws. They're very long and convoluted, and if you want the whole type, all of them written out in semantics, let me know, I'll get them to you. But basically, number 1 says every symptom has meaning, which I just explained to you. So we're going to move on. Number 2, conflicts trigger biological response systems and programs. So that basically means if someone says something to you, you're going to stand up for yourself or you're going to speak back to them. And the body happens the same thing. If the body goes into a conflict shock because something happened to the body, it has to have a response period. And then after that response period comes a healing period or a resolution cycle. And that is law number 3. Healing follows conflict resolution. You can't have one without the other. They always go hand in hand. Number 4, this is the one that throws most people, is that microbes assist in repair. We do not have to fear germs or bacteria or fungi or viruses, but they're most likely not real. They're just essentially proteins in our experience that our body is utilizing for our optimization of function and healing. So whatever you choose to understand and believe at that point, none of them are going to harm us because we have to work logically. Think of biology, right? Bio, living, logic, just things, it makes sense. It's logical. And so we have to look through this lens when we're looking at our symptoms, is it's either all or nothing, right? So we have this law and logic that basically says if, mycobacteria is bad for us, or this type of germ is bad for us, it's potentially going to kill us or harm us, then it has to be an all or nothing logical principle. So let's take MRSA, for example. Everybody fears MRSA. And so it's like, if we have MRSA, that must mean that equals death. But that's not true because not every person that comes in contact with MRSA dies of MRSA. Same thing that happens with the stomach flu. Everybody who gets the stomach flu doesn't always have all of the exact same experiences. So therefore, that doesn't mean that our body is reacting to that actual virus or that actual bacteria. It just means our body's utilizing it and our body's going through a healing cycle specific to the tissue, the experience, the conflict that we went through. And so there's only so many things we could experience. And so that means that microbes, specifically bacteria and fungi, will only go along with the coinciding programs that require those bacteria or those fungi. So, I mean, I remember vividly this when I was learning GNM, I was, I'm resistant to everything in life. I'm a 1-3 manifester. I'm just like, I will question everything. And so I was moving through this, and I remember a mentor of mine saying to me, well, every time you're around someone that has the flu, you don't always get the flu. And most of the time people are like, oh yeah, we fear contagion, right? We fear that the microbes are going to get us. And I remember in chiropractic school, I was around 6 different people at a conference. We literally flew to Florida for a conference. All of us together stayed in the same room, and everybody caught the flu except for me. And I sat next to everybody on the plane. We ate every single meal together. I did not get it. And that is because I did not have an active indigestible morsel conflict. So therefore, I didn't need those microbes. So they weren't resolving anything inside of me. And so when you break it down into that logical sense, you remove that fear component. And that's exactly what we've been doing in these last 4 weeks. And as we start to put these pieces together, we have more confidence and trust in our innate intelligence and in our body. And number 5, each program has a predictable pattern. So if I'm running an indigestible morsel conflict in my stomach and I'm not able to digest something, whether something that was said to me, something that my psyche perceived that I wasn't able to swallow, I'm not going to have an eye problem from it. Once my psyche determines that it's an indigestible morsel of my stomach, I'm not going to have issues with my right leg. It's going to stay in the parameters of that organ or organ system or tissue. So not to give in too much detail, but we have three germ layers inside of our body that when we develop from the endoderm, the mesoderm, the ectoderm. You have endoderm, which is very primitive tissue. This is the tissue that we need for survival. So things like your gut, things like your kidneys, those vital organs. Then you have your mesoderm, which is a little bit more advanced tissue. Then you have your ectoderm, and that's more like your skin. That's more of like the modern parts of us, right? And so you have those types of programs that only will live in those lines. We cannot cross lines. And so once you start to understand and trust that these symptoms will stay in that pathway, they don't cross over. If you have a stomach ache and your foot hurts, that's two different programs. If you have arthritis and you have glaucoma, those are two different programs. If you have cancer in your liver and you have cancer in your stomach, the metastasis is not a thing because your stomach cells don't travel to the liver and become liver cells. It doesn't happen. Physiologically, that's impossible. It doesn't matter what level of definition you put to it. And so when we start to understand these systems, it is predictable and it imprints into us more trust than fear and disdain. And so let's talk about sleep. Let's dive into this because sleep, just like we talked about brain, just like we talked about cells, sleep is actually part of the body's repair system. So sleep is not a separate program. So I just explained the liver and the kidney and the pancreas, and all these cells live in these areas. There's not really a sleep program because sleep is a part of the inherent system, just like cellular vitality, just like your brain. Our brain, it communicates with everything. And so we can encapsulate literally almost every program that our body can be experiencing to having a foundational change in sleep. Because if you have a conflict, sleep is going to become in question. Because if you feel like you're running from a bear because you are conflict active, looking for a resolution, your body's not going to sleep because it's going to be in a high sympathetic tone. Your body's going to be in fight or flight. You're conflict active. If your body's in a deep healing response and you're experiencing a lot of symptoms, it's now bringing in the repair parts. We're bringing in the repair soldiers to bring in inflammation, to bring in heat, to bring in exudate or tissue or fluid to help that tissue heal and repair. You're bringing in the nutrients. That means your body needs rest. It needs energy. It needs to conserve that energy to shunt to the area or the tissue that is healing. And so that would be our parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest. So, two things that are most important here. Healing only happens when you are in a parasympathetic mode. If you are in parasympathetic and you shoot back into sympathetic, you go back into conflict activity. And so most people are actually experiencing in and out hanging healing. They heal for a little bit and then they go back into stress mode. They heal for a little bit, they go back into stress mode. And we're never finishing that complete healing cycle. And so what happens is we get dreams or we don't get dreams. And I like to start here because the number one thing when people come to me, I ask them if they're experiencing symptoms, are they having dreams? Because if you're having dreams, that's your subconscious trying to process the unresolved conflicts that are preventing you from sleeping. Because you're in sympathetic mode. Your brain is protecting you for your survival, looking for active ways to shift your perspective subconsciously so that you feel inherently safe and can go into body repair mode, which means sleep. So this right here, this entire slide, if anybody's having sleep issues and you educate them about this, that should remove them from the fear that not being able to sleep or having insomnia or all these diagnosed sleep issues is actually vital and essential for their understanding of where they're at in their healing cycle or in conflict active cycle and not actually going into healing because sleep is not just rest. Yes, I know we require sleep as humans, but it's actually an entire laboratory of healing that happens when you are sleeping. at 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., you have different shunting of different hormones. You have different correspondence in different areas of the body. That's how your body makes your androgen hormones. It's how it makes all of the melatonin naturally, your circadian rhythms. Everything is so intricately orchestrated that when you're in conflict activity, your body's job is survival. And so everything gets put to the back end. And imagine just constantly living in that survival because you're not able to find resolution. So dreams are going to constantly perpetuate themselves. Unless you don't resolve that conflict and you continue to stay conflict active, then your dreams most likely will go away. Because your body just tuckers out and is exhausted and tired of finding resolution, so it will take a break. And that is typically when we get this in between restful sleep, where we're waking constantly and we don't maybe remember our dreams, but we're having them. We're not present in our life. We're moving throughout the day. And the biggest key here is it's because we're without safety, because the nervous system requires safety to have deep rest. So let's look at some experiences or symptoms that we could talk about when it comes to sleep. Like I told you in the last slide, conflict activity means that you're going to be hyper alert. It means you're going to be on guard, and it means you're not sleeping deeply. So aura rings, sleep trackers, HRV, all those things are the rage. And most people just want to figure out how to sleep better because their aura ring tells them, I only got 10 minutes of REM sleep. And so they're looking for the next best thing to get themselves sleeping. They're taking melatonin. They're trying to do this sleep study. They're trying to do all these things to pathologize their sleep. Well, if we look at this from a general foundation, is their body's actively not able to find resolution in whatever conflict they're going through. Because when your body's conflict active, you have cold hands, cold feet. You have repetitive thinking. You have constant remuneration of what's going on in your life, either via dreams or you have anxiety or you're stressed out constantly. You may have holding on to weight for safety. You may be holding on to fluid. You may be experiencing moodiness because your body is now having these mood swings because you're trying to conserve energy for healing, but you're not allowing the healing to happen. And so when we constantly do this, when our body's trying to heal for our survival, we get into a chronic loop of insomnia and burnout. And unfortunately, and fortunately, there's not a program for insomnia and burnout because it's basically other things that are going on that are wrapped into that experience being a reminder or communicator to the body that this is not a problem of sleep. It's a problem of finding resolution and safety. So it's not random, it's calculated, it's necessary. And we should be grateful that when we're not sleeping, we know we're probably conflict active and we need to start figuring out what's going on. It's time to put our detective hat on and go Inspector Gadget or Nancy Drew on ourselves and figure out how do I get to the bottom of this? Not, oh, I'm so stressed out because I'm not sleeping. I need to get sleep and completely ignore what the internal compass of our body is telling us. So the brain is trying to stay alert for survival. When the conflict resolves and goes into repair mode, it shows us that this deep fatigue or this vivid dream sleep is necessary. And that is most of the time when I talk to a lot of people, the time when we think something is actually wrong. Because now we're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't sleeping. And now I'm in this deep fatigue state. Like things just in our fear-based mind perpetually get worse. But really, if we're able to find resolution, parasympathetic state is necessary and required for us to have time to anchor back in, to respond, and actually go through a healing phase. So it is 100% protective and never defective. So some imbalanced sleep behaviors that we could have is nightly wakings, which we would talk about in terms of a stress signal or repair cycle because you're in and out of those things. Early morning wakings potentially can be, we talk about in the outside world of medicines, adrenal or cortisol imbalances. Well, let's look at the programs that we're running and figure out what programs those are. Because attending to the adrenal and cortisol imbalances by taking different cocktails or things that we can address directly is not actually directly approaching what our body's trying to communicate. It's an indirect mechanism. You're trying to change the middle of a sentence instead of looking at what the entire plot of what your body's going through is. Vivid dreams, again, that's generally unresolved conflicts playing out. You're trying to figure out a way subconsciously to have a different perspective on what happened. Oversleeping, this is the one that everybody always complains that they never get sleep, but when they're so tired all the time, they're anti-rest. This is the one that for the past 8 years of my life, I just always crack up about because we live in such a fast-paced society that people want to sleep, but then when they finally get to sleep, like I have to wake up, I have things to do. I don't have time to rest. I don't have time to heal my body. I don't have time to take this time to do what my body's trying to do. It's like we want to go from not sleeping to only sleeping 7 hours and waking up with 100% energy and skipping that healing phase. So every sleep change has a meaning. Even nightmares can be the psyche's way of processing conflict. And to reframe this, instead of fearing sleep problems, let's see them as signs that our body's adapting and get to the Inspector Gadget side of what's going on in our system. We've talked a little bit about this, but this is why conventional approaches fall short in terms of sleep. So we know from the past other sessions, if you've showed up, safety, repair, release. You have to be safe in order to find resolution, in order to have repair, in order to go into release or resolution or back to normal tone. So sleep struggles are not fixed by forcing melatonin. That actually inherently reverses the cycle and reiterates that our body is staying in conflict activity because we're basically telling the body, hey, it's okay to start trying, it's okay to communicate this to me. I'm just not listening, right? It's like putting your hand over your mouth. Sleeping pills, same thing. Anything that you're going to add in large amounts to the body to experience a physiological change as the opposite of what you're currently going through. So if you're not sleeping and you're taking melatonin to sleep, you're actually pushing yourself back into sympathetic tone and just basically covering up what's going on and saying, I'm not listening to you, body. And so there are ways we can bring ourselves to a balanced sympathetic or a parasympathetic tone that's not too intensive, so we're not experiencing these big sways, but we have to know what our body's communicating to us in the first place. And of course, forcing rigid routines. And honestly, out of all these sessions that I've scheduled for the rest of the entire year, sleep is the one that people beat themselves up over. They force such rigid routines on their sleep that actually almost always makes things worse and doesn't ever make them better because sleep's not the actual problem. It's a symptom of something deeper that our body's trying to communicate to us. Restoration only comes, like I said, when we resolve the conflict, when we have a nervous system that's actually able to respond, because during stress or sympathetic, we're in conflict activity. During parasympathetic, we're in healing, and there's only two switches, and you cannot switch the other one on or off unless your body's communicating that that's where it's at. Natural rhythms are always going to be restored when restoration comes, and that's that natural homeostatic balance. So again, many people try to knock themselves out and get sleep, and what does that happen? You wake up more tired. You wake up like disoriented and you don't remember a lot because you're basically turning off the master communication system of your body. So true restoration has to come with aligning to your body's natural rhythm. So how does this work and why do I talk about all of this in the world of sleep? And what does the own light of our body have to do with it? Well, because the light in our body essentially is vital source energy. So to break it down to you, we are made of heat, light, frequency, vibration, cells. That's how we all communicate. But underneath all of that, there's a level of life force energy. There's a means of energetic force to matter. So we are matter, but we have to have some means of communication. So vital life force energy is the electricity that runs through us. And so that electricity is always equivalent to gasoline in a car. If you don't have gasoline in the car, motor oil, you aren't going anywhere. And so when we don't have enough vital life force energy, because we're constantly in this combative loop that our body is not getting enough sleep, it's not healing, we're not shifting our perspectives, we're not resolving these things, then we're going to keep burning that vital life force energy. And our body's going to shunt that vital life force energy to areas that our body absolutely needs it for our survival. And so why does it happen that we're in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s? And our body finally almost like feels like it's crashing or tuckering out, or every symptom or every disease or disease dysfunction is coming online, it's because we've run out of vital source energy, because we've been burning every last drop that we can until our body just shoves us into repair mode because it's tired of us not listening to it. So majority of resolutions happen in these years, these generations of our lives, because 90% of 90 to 95% of the time, our body will resolve it, even even if we don't do anything with it, but it can sometimes take decades. And this is why you see people exploding in their 30s, 40s, and 50s with the big C word cancer, because our body runs out of vital life force energy of trying to communicate to you to resolve something. So it just puts you in resolution mode because you have to survive. And that's the underlying initiative of what our body is doing here. So we're not treating an insomnia or an imbalanced sleep system. We're just actually activating our own repair system. And we could do that via your own light because our own body emits biophotons and our cells actually emit this light that we can actually now reabsorb into ourselves and essentially become a generator for our own healing. So let's talk about how this works. And my 8-month-old just ripped all of mine off before she went to bed. So I don't have any on me right now. Do I? I have a half one right here that I folded in half. So essentially, it is a sticker. It's 100% a sticker because there's no ingredients in it. It's non-transdermal. There's nothing going into your body. It's simply like a mirror or a reflector that has organic crystals, stabilized oxygen, stabilized water that basically takes your own body's light because we emit low-level infrared light. If you look at thermography scans, if you look at heat vision goggles, night vision goggles, you know that we all have light, some type of heat that comes off of us. So it basically reflects that back inside to our body, and we're able to utilize it as vital life force energy. And so the biggest changes that I see when people start adding this into their lives is shifting with sleep. And I want to take a second to share this because everybody always talks about how sleep is something they want to change, but people are not willing to experience the changes in the uphill shifting patterns of sleep. So let's break it up logically. Most people who put this patch on to experience more vital life force energy, and they expect it to be a magical reconciliation in them to sleep beautifully for the rest of their nights, exactly how they want to. And if they don't, they claim it doesn't work. If I added more gasoline to my car that was completely out and running on fumes, it might take a little bit of maintenance to the rest of the vehicle in order for me to be able to continue utilizing that vital life force energy. Or if I take that extra gasoline in my body, it's going to get shunted and put in areas that my body absolutely needs it. So while I've seen amazing, amazing changes in the world of adding more fuel and vital life force energy and changing in sleep, it doesn't mean it happens tomorrow. And so I want to share this with you, and I can't get this completely separated. I cut my nails, everybody, yesterday. So real life problems. Oh, maybe I did. Okay. I'll try better next time. So imagine this is an entire whole patch, but so you take this patch, you put it on your body. It creates light signaling. You now have more vital life force energy. And let's say you've been conflict active and having sleep issues for 10 years or even 2 years. It doesn't matter. You enter the time. Maybe this is you. Now your nervous system that's been stuck in a high sympathetic tone, trying so hard to be in parasympathetic, but getting shunted back to sympathetic because we're not listening to it, or we're trying to treat it with a million things that are pushing us even more into sympathetic. Your body now gets a little bit of gasoline. It gets a little bit of reflective light that it can do whatever it wants with. And now it has to follow that innate intelligence pattern of what it's going to do with it first, right? And so you maybe notice you have a little bit more energy. You sleep great for a night, but then the second night, you feel like you sleep like complete crap. And that's because now your body's now back to looking for that resolution. Or my favorite, people put this patch on, they say, I slept horrible, worse than I've ever slept in my entire life, but I had the craziest dreams, right? We just talked about that. Dreams start shifting our perspective. So more vital life force energy equals more opportunity to find actual healing and resolution. And so when we actually stick with this and continue to add more vital life force energy over and over and over and over again, we find more resolution. Therefore, we find more restoration, and therefore we return to homeostatic balance as we continue on. So just to reiterate, no ingredients to go into the body. That's the only reason why I put these on my body, because I don't want to add anything from the outside. I want my body to optimize what it already has the intelligence to do. So we're not releasing drugs, chemicals, stimulants. There's literally nothing going into the bloodstream, no vitamins, no minerals, nothing. There's no side effects or contraindications. So it doesn't matter what medications you are on. We're not putting anything into the body, so it's not going to change any of that. like I said, stabilized water, stabilized oxygen, amino acids, and healing or reflective organic crystal molecules that reflect your own light back into your body. And it's something that has over 130 patents, over 200 in the LifeWave suite at this point. LifeWave's been around for 21 years, over 90 clinical studies alone on this technology. And it was originally created for our Navy SEALs to keep them active and actually allow them to have a high function ability without depleting their vital life force energy with drugs, stimulants, uppers, downers, and all of the other things that we know that they're putting into these people who have a very intensive job and requirement. So it was founded in 2004 for 20 years ago, and they have just kept going. So there are 10 patches in the suite. The one that we're talking about most efficiently today is the X39 patch, because this X39 patch is what reflects your own light back into your body. Think of it like a stamp. It allows your body to create its own inherent production of GHK copper peptide. So if you have heard about GHK copper peptide, you'd most likely heard about it being injected from the outside, because peptides are all the rage right now. Injectables are all the rage. They're natural. You could inject them, you could add them in. But like I always say, a home cooked meal is always better than eating out. Doesn't matter how good it is. If someone makes it that you know and love, there's just some secret ingredient in it. And that's exactly what happens when you make your own GHK copper peptide. So don't believe me, go read the research. Research from injected from the outside of the body. There's over 33 pages in the world of PubMed that show you all of these benefits. Anything from GHK copper peptide enhancing hair, skin, and nails, lung protection, fast growing cells, brain and nerves, antioxidant power. But the real reason we're here talking is because GHK copper peptide enhances stem cell activity. GHK copper peptide allows stem cells to actively start producing again. It allows them to start to regenerate, repair, age reverse, and enhance your entire well-being. And if you're not familiar with stem cells, they're the Bob Ross of stem cells or of cells. They could be created into any happy accident or any type of beautiful picture that your body wants to utilize them for. And once you take a stem cell and it becomes a liver cell, it cannot become a stomach cell. And so you're able to have an infinite repair process. And so this was discovered that GHK copper peptide activates stem cells back in the 1970s by Dr. Loren Pickart, and it's been all the rage to inject GHK copper peptide for these benefits until this patch came along. An X39 patch is only about 5 years old, and so it has become a household name because of its incredible life-changing benefits to enhance our body's vitality via this life force energy, because GHK copper peptide literally can enhance and resolve and repair so many functions in the body because it's an essential peptide. So let's talk about some stories and testimonials here as we finish up and open up for questions. If you have any questions thus far, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I will make sure to answer them first when we finish up here. This is Debbie. So you could see a lot of people experiencing a lot of things. And so I'm just going to give you an example for those of you that have been tuning in all of these weeks so far, so we could continue to give you some more meat and potatoes on your dinner plate of GNM. So she has a chronic urinary tract infection. That is a bladder program. It has nothing to do with her liver or her sleep directly. It's because she's running an active program. She has knee pain. There's a self-devaluation in her knee. She has now increased energy from the patch, but she had mental clarity improved. She has some floaters in her eye. She runs an eye program. So thinking about this, she has a lot of conflicts going on. No wonder why she had uh, lacking mental clarity, why she was lacking the ability to sleep, why she had less energy, because she was in a constant state of chronic loop of trying to resolve things. And so by wearing this simple patch, she got vital life force energy. It's not treating anything. The patch didn't put magical things in her body to treat all of these diseases. What she actually added was vital life force energy, and her body was able to resolve those because that's what our body wants to do. It wants to heal. It doesn't want us to be miserable. It wants us to be optimized no matter what age you are. Let's look at Cindy. She was on this for 20 days and she noticed her chronic insomnia for 5 years with 1 to 2 hours a night of sleep. In 2 to 3 weeks, she was sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. And as she continued on, she got more energy, more clarity. And she's able to clean the house now. I mean, this is real life things that people are not able to do because sleep is essential to our vital function. And it's not the main thing that we have to correct. It's vital life force energy that has to be flowing inside of us so our body can continue with its highest functions and abilities. Next one was a little bit difficult to read. I should have blown it up for you and cut it in half, but this is a fun one. Her name is Stephanie. Prior to patching, chronic pain, stomach cramping, constipation, IBS, mouth ulcers, insomnia since childhood, so she's went through a lot of conflict in her life. Regularly ill with sinus infections, bronchitis, that's a lung program. Diagnosed with high acidic body at 12 years old, so basically she had an indigestible morsel conflict, something that happened when she was younger. Breast tumor, so she runs a nest worry conflict. Thyroid stuff, too slow to catch the morsel. Lots of surgeries to try to fix a lot of things because they had constantly, been impaired from not resolving them. Chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, hypotension, lumbar and cervical spine issues, chronic migraines, insomnia. That's the whole reason I shared this. Edema in the hands and feet. She was running an active KCT. She had chronic kidney disease. There's the KCT. Guess what? She started patching. All she added was vital life force energy. Her migraines went away. Her high blood pressure went away. Those programs just resolved themselves, and she was able to find a really great health perspective or perspective shift. Chronic pain became manageable, chronic fatigue, and then look at that, her insomnia went away. And it didn't just go away because she fixed it. It went away because she has vital life force energy, and the body had more gasoline in its tank to be able to resolve all the stress that her body was under for seemingly decades. I mean, since childhood. Here's some more fun ones. Probably not as fun as that one, but knee, ankle issues gone, PTSD from combat gone, right? If we think about PTSD, it's the biggest conflict that we could ever experience, right? It's complex trauma that our brain is turning off for our survival. If you don't understand anything about GNM and you want to look at complex trauma, that'll explain everything to you about the 5 biological laws. We have inherent mechanisms in our body that help protect us for our survival, and that's where complex PTSD comes from. And so when we're able to have a grounded experience of trust in our body, we don't have to constantly forget things. We could process them and allow them to continue on. Insomnia, nightmares gone. Look at that, nightmares. That's why I put that one in there, because those things come when our body's trying to resolve something. It's not broken, it's just trying to communicate. Pain from torn tendon and wrist gone. Next, we have Zoe. This is a brain injury, was reconnecting, can hold focus, sleep pattern, improve quickly. Hair is longer, skin is cleaner, feels healthier, more at ease. Major difference, more energy in the body. Then we have Heidi. She got the X39 from her mom, which is usually how this happens. Mom was 38 years young, had a stroke. Was walking straighter, dementia clearing. Father, his prostate improved, pain reduced, motorcycle riding again. Heidi, after that, her insomnia for almost 40 years, 2 nights using X39, it was gone. And I will say, yes, sometimes the sleep is the one thing that goes beautifully and shifts because that's the one thing your body needed is vital life force energy. But for others, sometimes your sleep takes a couple weeks in order to experience this. Research shows with these patches for vital life force energy, 85% notice in the first 30 days, something change, whether it's sleep, energy, function, enhances and changes in water, how your body carries itself. Most people say, I feel like I'm plugged into something. I've never felt this before, kind of like a light bulb turned on. But within 90 days, 95% of people noticed some type of shift and change. And that doesn't play into, everybody has to have a certain amount of something. It's that everybody's experiencing conflict and has their own story, and their body has its own level of adaptation and repair that needs to be processed. And sometimes if someone's run a conflict for 30 years, it could take up to 2 or 3 years for that to actually repair itself, which in the miracle of time, that is a huge difference. 30 years to 2 years, I'll take 2 years over 30 to repair something anytime. But when we make that shift and trust what our body's going through, we remove the fear from it. And that's the whole reason why we're here tonight. Dawn had insomnia changes too. 4 months on patches, she was walking, her legs were working normally again, all of her swelling was gone, sleeping soundly, no more sleep aids, and she dropped 4 dress sizes because she was able to feel safe. And if you want to learn all about the weight loss or the water retention, I have a very intimate and unique story with that myself. That was our very first session. I started with that because that's my story and how I got into these wonderful vital life force energy patches for myself and what it shifted for me. So you can catch that on our YouTube channel replay. All of this will be posted for replay. So I have like 3 more minutes to go over this before I promised you questions and open. So I want to give you an opportunity to just see what this would look like. And again, this is unique to everybody and what you want to work for and work towards in terms of your health goals. But to be honest, your health goals aren't going to determine what we're going to do with your body because your body just needs more vital life force energy. So starting with X39 is the vital life force energy patch. And just like I shared the analogy about if you didn't have gas in your car for a long time and it sat there and it didn't run, and then you all of a sudden got gasoline, you probably need to check the motor oil, rotate the tires, check all of the other engine fluid components, the windshield washer fluid. You need to make sure there's no rats that have infested in. I bought a used car back in what was that? I don't even know. The time is elusive to me right now, but it was a couple months ago. I bought a used minivan. It was like only a year old, but it was infested with ants because it sat on the lot for 3 months. Fun story. So yeah, there's some things that you got to take care of if things sit for a while, right? And so my approach to this is if you want vital life force energy, why not add vital life force energy in different capacities? So X39 is the foundation. Everybody should wear X39, literally everybody. I wear it, my children wear it, my animals wear it. It helps your body activate GHK in its own way so your GHK can activate your stem cells. It's a proactive means of having consistent vital life force energy. Eon is another tool in your toolbox that you could add on. I highly recommend you just start with X39 and Eon and you continue with those for a week or two, getting your body adjusted and adapted to it. Eon is great for bringing you back to parasympathetic tone. So therefore it helps with your mood. It helps with inflammation because inflammation is always eating stem cells, even your active stem cells that you have naturally trying to fight for you. And if you're in and out of that constant chronic loop, you're not actually able to regenerate and inflammation does become problematic and therefore your body's not able to respond the way it wants to. So adding those two together, no matter what you have, I don't care what your list says, start with X39 and Eon. Adding carnosine is great for the brain, organs, heart tissue. You could read lots of benefits about this. Aloe Vera is great for restoring circadian rhythm, hormones, sleep, hair, skin, and nails. Yeah, I do look like I'm 16, but I promise you I'm not 16. I've been wearing these patches for 2.5 years now. And even though I already looked young to begin with, it has completely transformed my body after having 3 children in 6 years, and changing fine lines, wrinkles, stretch marks, you name it, skin, varicose veins, some really gnarly things that most people don't ever see reverse, and I've seen that. So this is a vital health and pure vitality. We're talking about just putting extra gasoline motor oil in the areas that need some vitality. And glutathione is a natural detoxifier, antioxidant, an immune booster. So most of us are deficient in glutathione. If you take pharmaceutical drugs, you've probably booted yourself out of tons of glutathione in your life. And so this, again, adds more vitality into the pool of helping resolve the things that you want resolved from. They're not treatments. So we're not writing a treatment protocol for sleep based off of this. We're simply adding some vital energy. So if you want to opt into this, this would be the long-term of adding in. It's $2.95 for these 5 packs of patches. I do recommend sticking to at least 6 months to a year of X39 to see long-term changes. I'll show you why here, because in the first 24 hours, about 4,000 genes are going to become reset. Then the first 4 weeks, your new army is activated. So again, you're just building more vital energy. It's just like storing containers of gasoline for you to have in case you run out and you need more. Brain balancing happens within 6 weeks. This is where we see mental health things happen, anxiety, depression, that kind of PTSD component, memory, sleep, right? So it's a consistent continuum. Collagen increases. This is where I see patients in my office decide to not have knee replacement, shoulder replacements because their body's regenerating and healing. 6 months, this is my favorite part to talk about. After 6 weeks of wearing the patch, your body, your cardiovascular system age reverses itself a day and a third for every day that you wore the patch. So the inventor, CEO, and creator of LifeWave patches, David Schmidt, 62 years old, his metabolic age is 31. And the dude looks like he is not 62. So I always advise people, give it a go. Go 6 months minimum. I shoot for at least the year, because if you changed anything for a year, your life would look completely different. But you're simply putting a sticker on your body and taking it off. It's 12 hours on in the morning, then you take it off at night. I do it when I brush my teeth, and I will never not wear them because it's been a part of my regular routine. I know I've gone over, but I always promise to over deliver. So here we are. Uh, if you have questions, you can stay on, but I want to make sure we understand the lifestyle foundations that go alongside this, because most people start wearing the patches and don't make any changes. And that's totally cool, because sometimes having more vital life force energy is better than none. So I've seen lots of patients in my office just add this and see those changes. But if you want more lifestyle foundations, you're going to optimize things more optimally because you have more gas in your tank. So looking at rhythms, looking at having a consistent sleep and wake cycle, making sure there's darkness, right? Being asleep before 10 o'clock because that's when your first shunt of androgens happen that converts to melatonin. Staying asleep through 2 a.m. And again, if we have work schedules and kids and those types of things, we also have those interruptions. And then that's we understand we have to have some type of lifestyle shift and foundation to add to that. We always talk about adding structured water, minerals, because that helps our body actually detoxify at night and process and regenerate and heal. Every week I do this, I give you cell salts that optimize because cell salts are vital life force tissue minerals that we need for vital energy functions. So Cali-Phos, Mag-Phos, and Nat-Mer are great cell salts that you could add in to optimize, even if you want to add those in today and you're not patching yet. Get them started. That's going to add vital life force energy as well. And always remembering the last 3 points, sleep is rhythmic, so consistency tells your body when to repair. We have to have some type of consistency in anything that we do. Dark and screen-free time actually signals melatonin. So if you're constantly having your phone in your face until 3 a.m. and then wondering why you feel tired when you wake up at 6 a.m., it's because you were just shining a light into your face and weren't telling your body you need to go to sleep. But underlyingly, you need vital life force energy, number one thing. So if you don't have that, these are, again, just extra. We got to get the vital life force energy back. And cell salts are a gentle yet powerful support for sleep balance because it's actually giving more restorative value to what your body's going to utilize for repair. So if you have questions over the Vitality Kit, how to get started, your unique situation, now is the time to do that. If anybody invited you here tonight, please reach out to them for more information to get started. They can help you get these patches into your home in about 2 to 3 days to your doorstep if you're in the US. They're available in over 90 countries. So literally there's not someone that we can't get these to. We do our best to be able to get you a customized regimen. Anybody who opts into patching with us gets active support through our private Telegram group. We have an entire education portal that I run my mouth and have lots of videos to help you. And you have direct access to me through our Telegram channel and those that invited you here. We all work as a team. And our biggest mission here is to love you with our whole hearts, watch you have vital energy restoration, and then celebrate you with whatever programs, conflicts, resolutions that you're working through and giving you that certainty that you can trust your body and your body was built very intelligently and you can adapt because that's what we're made for. So if anybody has any questions, I don't see any in the chat, you can unmute yourself and we will chat. Hey, Yvonne, you snuck in there.
Hello.
Hello, my love. How are you?
Amazing. Thank you. That was one of my favorite presentations so far. It
I
was
love sleep.
fascinating. I can't wait to watch the replay so I can digest it all because I know I will have questions. But yeah, no, love it. And X39 helped with my sleep immediately. But then adding Alavita, I have never slept better in my entire life. I haven't been able to sleep ever since I was a teenager, and now I can actually go to bed knowing that I'm going to actually get some rest and wake up and, feel revived. So I'm here for it.
Thank you for sharing. And I want to talk just since nobody has any like dying questions yet. I want to make sure we talk a little bit about like the X39 Eon Alavita kind of trio. Because I know, we go over really the why and the perspective shift in a lot of these, and we get a lot of the education on the patches when we start patching, right? And so X39 and Eon, I always like to start with those because like we talked about here and every single other week, X39 is the foundation. It's the cellular component. It's the component that we need an abundance of stem cells that are being regenerated and either in requirement to restore tissue, right? Those have to be sent somewhere. The Eon component is the inflammatory as well as the mood balancing or parasympathetic nervous system restoring component. And that's essential because if we're in a chronic loop of whatever conflicts we're in, inflammation is necessary for healing. You have to have it. But if you're in these chronic loops of going in and out of conflict activity and healing, what happens is your body gets just like this unbearable amount of inflammation because you're starting and stopping the train so many times that it's just like this inflammation build up. And now that does become detrimental to your system. And so we need to be able to add vital energy to that component. And so starting with X39 and Eon, I think is a vital component for anybody. However, I always like to advise to add Alavida in next. And we didn't get a chance to kind of blow through it, or I blew through it and didn't get a chance to talk about it. But Alavida, I believe, is the best patch to help with the whole circadian rhythm and sleep component. There's a beautiful book called The Epitalon Peptide Age Reverse Your Life. It's written by a colleague of mine, Dr. John Hardman, who wrote two books, one on X39 and one on Alavida. The epitalon peptide is the peptide that the Alavida helps your body create more of via your own light production. So your light reflects in, activates that peptide to be produced by your own body, and you have this abundance of the epitalon or epithalamin peptide. And so that peptide works on so many things in our system. So you are going to actively get that GHK. You're going to actively, from the X39, you're going to actively have the adaptability of your nervous system and the mood and the inflammation. And then you add in Alavida. And so Alavida works on circadian rhythm, hormones, cortisol. It can really be great, of course, for collagen, hair, skin, and nails. Works on, those androgen pathways. There's just so many things that the epithalamin peptide can benefit that most people either get, Alavida because it's kind of like the natural Botox. It's kind of like the patch that helps get rid of scars and fine lines and wrinkles and makes you look younger and feel better and get rid of stretch marks and just makes your skin feel soft and different. But really, Alavida I think is the best sleep patch. Now, there is a sleep patch in the LifeWave line, and I want to make sure I say this, and I should have put it in the PowerPoint, but the Silent Night patch was made specifically for sleep. And now after patching hundreds of people and helping people with this, I really think Silent Nights is a great way to get people into a deeper sleep. And I say that from a German new medicine perspective because of this. And this is very different from I think most of the industry in patching and what most of practitioners will tell you is because I talked about today is the perfect time to explain it, how if your body's in a chronic loop of not sleeping at all, and you go into sleeping, your brain's going to turn on, right? You're going to have dreams, you're going to have vivid dreams, you're going to probably have some anxiety and like increased heart rate, right? So what happens that I find with a lot of people who just bought Silent Nights because they want to sleep instantaneously, kind of like a sleeping pill or melatonin situation, they put the Silent Night on like here or here where it's recommended, and they have the most vivid nightmares and their sleep gets worse. And that's not because the patch isn't working, it's because you just turned on this high availability of your body now being able to like see and find resolution and repair and conflict resolve. And so that's a lot for some people. And so Silent Nights has caused a lot of people a lot of high anxiety, a lot of like re-triggering of kind of like people who have chronic PTSD. And so I don't personally recommend Silent Night be the first patch you wear for sleep. If you want sleep changes, like we talked about today, X39, Eon, Alavida. Like marry those three over like a 3 week span because X39 and Eon you wear during the day, Alavida you wear at night. And so you get this nice balance that's not too much for your system. And then after a few weeks of that, you allow your body to go into a state of repair and an easeful shift into parasympathetic instead of shunting yourself there and your brain's like, ah. And so when that happens, then you could add in Silent Night. And I recommend adding Silent Night in the furthest away from your body. Because Silent Night can bring a lot of changes to your body. So Silent Night basically helps you produce your own melatonin, essentially. And so if you start with X39 Neon during the day, you could add Alavida at night anywhere that you want. Usually, typically, you would also want to start Alavida further away from your head and neck. If you do have those types of chronic dreams or you haven't had dreams for a while, I always like starting underneath the belly button and then moving it up. I still can't wear it on my third eye. Like I've been wearing this patch for 2.5 years and I cannot wear Alavida on my third eye. Like I get here, but most of the time it's on the back of my neck because it's still too much for vivid dreams. And I've always been a great sleeper. Like I've actually never had sleep problems, but it makes me like dream and all kinds of crazy things. So when you start with Alavida, Then you take Silent Nights and you put it right above between your big toe and your big toe and your first metatarsal. You're able to have it further away, and then after a couple nights you could work it up to like your chest and behind your ear and all the recommended spots. And that most of the time, if someone's having a lot of sleep things, like someone who maybe starts wearing X39 and changes these things, or wants to see changes with these things more readily, but has a lot of conflicts to resolve, then you could marry those together. But I don't personally ever recommend Silent Nights because let's be honest, you try something and something is perceived worse before you even watched this session and understand a perspective shift. You're not going to continue to try it again. And that's the biggest thing that I see is if we start with something easeful, X39 and Eon, and again, you could get all of these patches in a wholesale kit super cost effectively, so you're able to get these patches and have them on hand and add them over the course of a month or 2 months or 3 months, and you just consistently stay on X39, it becomes a really beautiful routine. You don't feel like you're having to treat things or have a protocol. Because the one thing that when I started this to get the education out there is that, there's no protocol for healing. Your body's already doing it. You're either having a protocol and you're interfering with something that your body is trying to do because you're not communicating, or you're trying to override a system. And so people always ask, like, what's the protocol for this? What's the protocol for this? The protocol is just to allow your body to find resolution and just start with X39 and Eon. Get the bigger kit of those patches bundled together. 295 gets you 5 packs, 535 gets you double that depending on which patches you get. You have enough for a few weeks to a few months. You put X39 on auto ship, $99 a month. Like, that's the most proactive health thing you literally could ever do. And I say that as a chiropractor. I mean, I get adjusted every single week, but when I added these into my practice, it completely shifted the health and vitality of how my patients' nervous systems responded because they're not constantly coming into my office and I'm helping shift them out of fight or flight to parasympathetics for 5 minutes before they go back to the real world that they live in, right? And so these things can make long-term changes in a much more easeful manner. And then you experience symptoms, and that means your body's in resolution and you're not in fear. So, ta-da! I'll get off my soapbox now, everybody. I just want to make sure everybody had that. Sloan, go ahead, my love.
So quick question. So I've been doing my ex because I get all confused sometimes with when I put them on, when I take them off. So I've been putting X39, Aeon, and Alavita on at night. Is that too much for the body at night?
Well, I mean, when you start patching, for anybody who's watching this in the replay, I always like to start X-ray and Eon during the day. You could technically do Eon at night, but I like to at least start during the day because your body's going to want more water. It needs to be hydrated in order for, your electrical chemical gradient. So you need more water. You need to be able to have more mineral salts and all of these things. So you've been patching for quite some time now.
A year now.
Yeah, I was gonna say coming
Over.
up on that. Yeah, almost there. So yeah, I would say once you know how your body responds and how much gasoline, motor oil, and these things that you need, you could flex them and change them. When I was pregnant with Magdalena, I actually wore all my patches at night. I felt so much better wearing my patches at night because I felt like I woke up better instead of just waking up groggy. And then after I had her, I was like, why the heck did I wear those at night? But it just was a shift of my body. So people learn their bodies, you learn different placements and different ways that you can adapt. So whatever you choose to do after you have found some level ground, I typically say, probably like 2 or 3 months. Just like a nice grounded level. LifeWave recommends that for every decade you are old, patch for 1 month minimum with X39. So that's also a great recommendation on to stay consistent with kind of like a general regimen of X39 and Eon. Like you would probably want, if you're, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, that's 5, 6, 7 months at that daily consistency. And not all the support patches are daily. We have different recommendations in the education portal for that, but we will be there to help you and hold your hand through those things. But just staying consistent on the front end is the biggest thing. Like just put it on in the morning, take it off at night. And then you have morning ones, nighttime ones. You follow that, you stay set. There's going to be major changes that happen.
Now, one other question, Dr. Kayla. So I wanted to know, could you wear two? So if I'm going through like a lot of extra stress right now, could you wear two Aeons during the day? If I started patching back during the day, could I wear two Aeons or is that not necessary? But I feel like I'm just hitting a lot of like higher stress because I'm going through some stuff right now. So I was like, I don't know, could I double patch the
So
A?
you could, any patch that you add over the first one is only going to get you a 20% increase from that second patch. However, like look at this from a different perspective. Like if you're more stressed than you've literally ever been, like 20% more than what you're getting is a lot compared to nothing, right? So
Mhm.
everybody can choose their own, tolerance. So, when someone's experiencing resolution and healing after a stroke situation, like that 20% goes a long way, so you would probably want to add a second set. If someone's in chronic pain, they've been in chronic pain for 20 years, and they're still experiencing pain after with one set of patches, you probably might want to add that on. Like, how much vital energy are you wanting? And that's something that you can do. And, has put out those numbers of about 15 to 20% for the second patch. But some people do if they have two knees that they're having pain in and they wear an ice wave set and an Eon on one knee and an ice wave set and an Eon on another. That's two separate systems, right? Two separate knees. So yeah, you can absolutely play around with it and just, see what works for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you all, everyone, for attending tonight. You could always email me hello at Dr. Kayla Abeid. That is DrKaylaAbeid, .love, LOVE. And I will get your questions answered. If you would like to order patches, get back in touch with the person who invited you here tonight. And we will be back in 2 weeks to cover joint issues. So aches and pains, joint inflammation, and that perspective, we're going to dive into all the itises and sense in what that means in terms of conflict resolution and what we've experienced in our lives. Thank you everyone for showing up. This replay will be posted within 24 hours, so you could rewatch and rewatch again and send to anybody that came to mind during our session tonight. So much love to you, and I'll see y'all in 2 weeks.